The American War of Independence. It began not with a grand declaration, but with murmurs of unrest. By the mid-1700s, the American colonies were thriving under British rule. 13 diverse colonies stretching along the eastern seaboard, home to farmers, merchants, and thinkers. But across the Atlantic, the British Crown saw them as just that: colonies, sources of wealth, subjects of the empire. The trouble started after the French and Indian War ended in 1763. Britain had won, but the war left it deeply in debt. To recover, it looked to the colonies. Taxes were imposed, the Stamp Act, the Tea Act, and more. But the colonists had no representation in Parliament. No taxation without representation became their rallying cry. What followed were years of growing resistance. Protests turned into boycotts. Pamphlets spread revolutionary ideas. And in 1773, the Boston Tea Party, a bold act of defiance where colonists dumped an entire shipment of British tea into the harbor, made the tension explode. Britain responded with harsh measures known as the Coercive Acts. But instead of crushing the rebellion, it united the colonies. In 1774, they convened the First Continental Congress. The colonies began organizing militias. War felt inevitable, and then on April 19, 1775, it began. British troops marched toward Concord to seize weapons. At Lexington, they were met by a small band of colonial militiamen. A single shot rang out. No one knows who fired it, but it became known as the shot heard round the world. The American Revolutionary War had begun. At first, it was a scrappy, desperate fight. The British had a professional army, powerful navy, and global empire. The colonists had farmers with muskets, but they had something else too: a deep belief in self-governance. In 1776, everything changed. The colonies officially declared independence. On July 4th, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, drafted by Thomas Jefferson. It declared that all men are created equal and that governments derive their power from the consent of the governed. It was not just a break from Britain, it was a bold new vision for society. General George Washington took command of the Continental Army. Battles raged across the colonies: Bunker Hill, Saratoga, and countless skirmishes in forests and fields. The war dragged on, bloody and uncertain. But then something crucial happened. In 1778, France, Britain's old rival, entered the war on the American side. With French ships, money, and troops, the tide began to turn. The final blow came at Yorktown in 1781. British General Cornwallis found himself trapped. American forces on land, the French fleet at sea. He surrendered. Though minor fighting continued, the war was effectively over. In 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed. Britain recognized the independence of the United States of America. It was an unlikely victory. A band of colonies had taken on the most powerful empire of the time and won. But the real revolution wasn't just on the battlefield. It was the idea that people could rule themselves, that power should come from below, not above. The American Revolution lit a fire. It inspired revolutions in France, in Haiti, across Latin America. It reshaped the world, but it was also imperfect. The new nation still had slavery. Women had few rights. Native peoples were pushed aside. The ideals declared in 1776 would take centuries to be fully realized. Still, the war for independence marked the beginning of a new chapter in human history, where liberty, democracy, and the struggle for justice would become global pursuits. From Lexington to Yorktown, from a tea-drenched harbor to a signed declaration in Philadelphia, the story of American independence is a story of courage, ideas, and the will to create a different future.